Hi there, and welcome back to the Hub of Junior Golf podcast. I'm Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. And Roger, what an exciting time. The PGA Tour, obviously, back in the mainland of the United States. We're creeping our way, although the thermometer doesn't say spring is around the corner. You can at least see it on the calendar now that we're not that far from March and into February, and better days ahead for all of the country, although it is quite chilly out there in many parts. You know, you look at college golf, which, of course, is just 2 weeks from starting in the United States. And as I talk to so many people, especially, well, obviously in the men's game, the boys' game, it's all about PGA Tour PGA Tour University, trying to get inside that top 10, and then through the NCAA championships, try to make your way and get some status automatically from your college career. Roger, I think you can make the case this is the most successful collaboration the PGA Tour has ever had with any other body, and for sure, the NCAA.
Yeah, no doubt, Ryan. I have to say, I feel bad for all those Floridians out here. You know that 65 is you wear America. So I mean, I feel bad for you, Ryan. 20 degrees in Connecticut.
There you go.
But yeah, no, the PGAU and the PGA Tour, that collaboration has been outstanding. You hear it. You got guys, playing, staying in the game at college longer, wanting to kind of obtain that PGA coveted card, through that pipeline, if you will. And I think it's also, trickling down to even the college or the high school level, where players are really thinking a little bit harder about where they want to go, what's going to be impacting their, careers going forward. It does make a difference where you end up going. So I think that's something that we really are going to need to start exploring a little bit, from our perspective, or the Junior Golf Hub perspective, is, maybe talking a lot more about that, because that is going to be an impact, right? Like, hey, I'm going to my normal school that I want to go to, but you're not going to get recognized at PGAU. And if your goal is to be on the PGA Tour, that's probably one of the drawbacks to it that I've seen. However, guess what? The transfer portal has been amazing for that, right? So these guys finish out, maybe take a year or two while they're in school, or a couple semesters, and then transfer out into a program that clearly has a schedule that gives enough points. And so I think that's something we're going to see. It's here to stay. It's really something I think it's really beneficial to the players. It's beneficial to a lot of the schools. A lot of the coaches are probably thinking, hey, this is great. I got players for a long time, or a few years anyway, not a one and done type situation anymore. Yeah. I think one of the things I would like to see is, why aren't we doing this with the women's game?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the national, golf program. The USGA has launched this program for the, focus more on the women's game, or women's side, girls side. Maybe it's time for them to start thinking about something like that. So,
well, in the past, we have seen players in the middle of their college season on the women's side leave to go to Q school. Now, they are allowed to come back if they don't get through. But boy, you talk about an interruption, and how difficult would that be for a coach in the middle of your year? If your player makes it, you lose them completely. If they don't make it, now they're coming back. You have to get them back in the team, the chemistry of the team. Someone else was taking their spot while they're gone. What if they were playing better, and now you have to reshuffle your lineup? So there's no doubt on the men's side that there are very few things that everyone is in agreement on that it works. Credit to the PGA Tour for even taking it a step further. Ludwig Aberg was the first one to win PGA Tour U with now full status for a year. And what does he do, Roger? He goes out and wins on the PGA Tour. He plays on a darn Ryder Cup team directly off of PGA Tour U. Then, 2 through 5, they go and play on the Korn Ferry Tour. So obviously they get great access as well.
Yeah,
With
no
that,
doubt.
we welcome in our guest here on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast, Kim Lewellen, the 2023 National Coach of the Year and the Coach of the National Champion Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Coach, that has to have a nice ring to it. But it is 2024, so I know you don't rest on your laurels. But boy, that had to provide some great energy as your team arrived back on campus and now ready for this ready for this spring season.
I'll tell you what, there's the energy. Obviously the moment is unbelievable when it happens, but what happens afterwards is just contagious. What happens in the community, what happens with our student athletes, what happens with the incoming players, it just becomes a whirlwind and we're still enjoying the benefits of that.
No doubt. You just joined us in the middle of a conversation, which I will open up to you. We'll throw you right in the fire. Obviously, on the men's side in the NCAA, they now have PGA Tour U, which provides unbelievable access to not only the PGA Tour, but then to the Korn Ferry Tour and all the way down the line to the Canadian and Latino America. The women's game doesn't have that. How big of a proponent would you be for the LPGA to create a similar format to PGA Tour U, where some of these stars would have immediate opportunity and access?
I would be for it immediately, and we've had many examples where, for instance, I'll just give Rachel Keene, who's a current player on our phenomenal player. Because of this highly ranked player, she's now possibly a candidate for the Curtis Cup. The Curtis Cup runs over first stage of qualifying school. So this is not just happening to Rachel Keene, but it's happening to many players that are in that position. So she's having to think through. Now, this is not, to be honest, they haven't set the date for Q School, but if they go on the same dates as they have in the past, she's now going to have to make a decision. So You've got some of the top players that are in the country that are wanting to represent their country, but now they have to make a decision. Do I go to first stage of tour score, or am I going to be able to do this? So I think for those players that have proven that they are outstanding players over and over and over again, I think it makes sense to reward them. Yes.
Yeah, Coach, that's a really good kind of understanding what's happening there in that women's game. Is it something that you're seeing, or maybe we're seeing, is the influx of more players coming internationally that's creating kind of maybe it's a divide in what's happening with college golf and what's happening with professional golf and women's, in the women's game? Is that one of the things that you think might be, causing, hey, let's create Q School? Because we have a lot of players that are just waiting to get to Q School. And a lot of the American players are, hey, they just want to stay in college and play college and amateur golf. Is that something that might be in the way there?
I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot of factors to it. I think that there are yes, there's a lot of European world players. I mean, if you notice, the LPGA is a world tour. We travel a lot all over the world. So it's a world tour. So to give those players that are, that's a great point that you make, that, I'm thinking about my particular moment here, but that's a great point that you bring up, that there are players, especially in, the Asian countries, that don't come over here and play in the States. So that's an immediate way for them to get to it. So I think it's a very valid point. I do think sometimes that that we have a tendency to sort of see how it goes with the men's tour. And then we, hey, I don't mind it. We see, does it work? Does it not work? And then we sort of make our judgment from there. So I think it's a little bit of that. I honestly think also, that it's a very good revenue maker for the LPGA, which I think I say that in a very positive way, because I do think that it gives many people an opportunity to go out there, get through Q School, sort of the old way to do it. And it does provide some income for the LPGA to sustain their enterprise. So I think your point is definitely valid. I do think there is some room to do something similar that the men are doing to provide those opportunities for those players that have proven themselves. But I also think that it could be a little bit of a moneymaker too.
Coach, let's kind of open up that box, if you will. Certainly in the United States, there is a great deal of national pride. It's what makes us the best country in the world. And currently, some believe that we have a problem in the women's game because so many spots on so many different colleges and universities are being filled by non-American players. Now, listen, at college coach, we all understand that the job is to win, and most college coaches are going to say, you know, whatever it takes, I'm going to have that player on my team to win. Do you believe that the United States has a problem with its pipeline to universities with junior golfers when you compare that to what's going on with junior golfers from the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question. I think that it obviously depends on the level that a junior is wanting to play. I think there's a spot for every single junior golfer out there to play. I've been fortunate to coach at all levels. I coached at the Citadel, the men and the women. I did East Carolina, and then Virginia and Wake Forest. So I've been fortunate to coach at every level. I think there's a spot for every junior at every level, whether it's D1, mid-major D1, D2, D3, whatever it might be. I do think that, you know, at certain levels, so you get at a level where where we're competing for national championships, I've got to find the best player that I can that fits into Wake Forest University, which is a intimate community. We're a private school, so you need to want the education too. But you know, for instance, we are very popular with internationals because they don't need a car. You know, so our golf course is on campus, our facilities on campus. So, you know, they don't need a car, which is what they're used to. So saying all that, I think there's a spot for everyone. I do think because of the size of the United States, that we have a lot more junior golfers than, let's say, the Netherlands, right? I mean, you're just going to have a handful from the Netherlands. But they have an outstanding national team that provides the information for that small population. I think you're going to see that. You see that in every country that you go in. I mean, you know, you can drive from, you know, Ireland to England. You can drive from, you know, France to, I mean, you can just, it's so easy to drive just like state to state. So you see that it's a little bit easier, I think, for them to take their top 12 juniors and provide the information and go. We are now doing that in the United States with the development now that they're bringing in a national team for the United States. I'm not sure what that model is going to look like. It'll start probably in the state, within the state, and then cultivate those players, and then you're going to have a top few. So I think that the internationals, again, back to the question, I think my job is to make the best team I can for Wake Forest University. I do like to bring in some diversity to our university with the internationals. I think that's a great way to do it with our student athletes, as well as we have our local North Carolina players. So I try to keep a little bit of a model of what our university looks like, and then have that be what my team looks like as well. So I think a lot of it is.
That was really good information. As one of the things that we do here for this podcast is we try to make sure that, you know, we inform our audience, you know, our parents and our players, and obviously coaches who follow this as well. You've been successful all the way through. Grew up in North Carolina. You've gone on to play, you know, golf at a high level. You're a successful golf coach, mentor, a lot of these young women, your boys as well. How do you do it? Let the audience know. How do you do all of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a great support staff around me. As you can tell, I have a home office at home. I am a pitching wedge away from our golf facility, so trying to make things convenient. And then I have just a great support staff here at home. My husband and my two kids, very involved with what I do, have always been helpful. My husband has always been here when my kids were growing old to take care of them. And then now with my children that are college age, they're out here helping me. Hey, can you help me go pick some balls for the players? So it's a total team effort here. And I think that's been one of the reasons why I've been personally successful at it.
Coach, it's the gold standard of junior golf podcast. Our community is growing leaps and bounds by the week as parents and players are in search really of a roadmap. And golf's an individual game. You have a swing coach, which at many times for, I would say 99.9% of juniors, that swing coach is not attached to the junior game. They may have professional players, other amateurs. They may work at a club. They may work at a range, whatever the case may be. Answers in the junior game are difficult to come by. So we try to provide answers. And what I absolutely love about you being on the podcast is you have coached at all different levels. So you can speak to just about every member of our audience that they all want to play college golf when they're playing at a high end of junior golf. Is that realistic? As you said, probably realistic at some level. You've coached at every level. How has your recruiting practice changed from the Citadel, from East Carolina to UVA, where you obviously won in the ACC and now a national champion at Wake Forest? I understand the type of player, maybe their scores have changed, but has the type of person you go after changed?
No, not at all. Even when I was coaching at the Citadel, where you might have a higher handicap player, I still wanted those players that wanted to learn, that wanted to continue to grow the game. I always look for, when I'm recruiting, I look for someone that has not reached their total level. They haven't reached their cap, that they still are always in the process of wanting to get better. And talking about swing coaches, this is one of the things if for the swing coaches that might be out there, I love it when a player has come to me, has a general understanding of their motion, of their machine, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go, and then the communication with the coach on that, so we can continually help that person improve. So I'm personally looking for somebody that has a passion for golf, that loves golf as much as I do, that's going to continue to grow in all the areas to help them reach their goals. So at the Citadel, I was recruiting a high handicapper. My goal was to get that high handicapper to be a low handicapper. Are we going to win a national championship at the Citadel? Maybe, probably not. But if I can get that player to be better, then they're going to be able to. A lot of my players from the Citadel are in the golf industry. How cool is that? They probably couldn't break 85 when they came, and then continually got better, and now in the industry. So there is a place for everyone. And what I would say for those that are out there, continually get better. Go on to the now it's Spike Mark, which is our ranking system. Go there, look at where the teams are ranked. Go do your research. Go see where you might fit into that school. Find 5 or 6 schools that you love. You love the area. You love the academic interests. They match what your goals are in 6 years, and then see where you could fit in there golf wise. It may be, if it's not at a varsity team level, intramural. I mean, when I first came here, I was fortunate enough that I had inherited a player that came off the intramural team here. You know what I mean? So if you love a certain place, there's an intramural team too, as well. But just doing your research, I think, is the most important to find that place where you will fit.
Okay, Coach. With that being said, I'm looking at Wake Forest, and my daughter is a really good player. What's it like playing for you? What's a day? What's it like?
Yeah. I hope it's a blast. Okay. But I'm not sure, if all my players might say that, but I hope it's a blast. What a typical week looks like. We just started up. We actually start in season on Saturday. We will, work out 3 times a week in the morning. So it's usually 7:30 to 8:30, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll get a workout in. They're welcome to do more or not less, more if they would like to on their own with our trainer.
They may play less if they do.
Right. And then we have practices every single day. And they're based off of what the information that we're getting from our statistical program, what their swing coaches are doing and that type of thing. And then we play a few times a week. So we're talking about it's a job, and it's a fun job. I mean, it's golf. I mean, if you love it, It's the process of getting better is only a joy, but it's a lot of time, and that's whether you're playing at any level. I mean, this is going to be whether you're at the Citadel, East Carolina, or like a Virginia, Wake Forest. So it's at every level.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. What would you look for from a player, and maybe some advice on how to reach out to a coach early on, just trying to establish a relationship or a connection?
I would say that most importantly is, again, it depends on the level. If you're if you're looking at a Citadel, hypothetically, I'm just doing some differences here, and then we're at Wake Forest. The most important is to do your research and see where you're going to fit. If you feel like you're a good fit, then write an email. Within that email, you need to put up there first what year you are. So if you're a class of 2026, put I'm Susie from a class of 2026. That way I immediately know, one, can I email this person back? I am not allowed to have any contact with anybody until after their sophomore year, June 15th. Then I can email them. I cannot have a contact with them, or they can't come to campus until August. So if you email a coach, realize they may not be able to email you back. So don't be offended by that. But do your research, see where you can fit, find your top 5, 10 schools, email them, put the class up there, and then put your best golfing tournament rounds. Meaning I just came back from the Orange Bowl and I shot yada, 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 and it was great. Don't put your bad, because you're marketing yourself. And don't put your bad and why it was bad. Don't do that. Again, you want to think of it as a resume. I'm not going to put on my resume, and I got fired from here because, I was late 10 times. Don't do that. Market yourself, your good stuff. Put that in there, and then put your schedule as well, where you're going to go. If this coach reads it, loves it, they're going to go find you. If there may be a university that might have a smaller traveling budget, recruiting budget, they may not be able to get out to you as much. Then they're going to start inquiring. Send me some swing videos. What are your TrackMan numbers? Let's get on a phone call. Again, once they can, which would be August after your sophomore year. So there are timelines.
Coach, let's get into specifics for you. Yeah. We've had every level of coach on this podcast in the men's and women's game. You're our second national champion. We had Coach Deacon from the men's side on, and he was pretty adamant about what his number one thing that he looks for in a player as a junior. Do you have a go-to that this player must have X if I'm going to consider them to come play for what is now the national champion Wake Forest Demon Deacons?
Mm-hmm. I love the game. And that can be hard to find in recruiting, but I want somebody that loves the game as much as I do. And if they love the game, they're going to love the process. They're going to love figuring it out, diving into what makes them good, what makes them where their weaknesses are, how they can get better. They're going to, just like anything that any of us love, we're going to know every single thing about it, right? And so that's the type of player that I'm looking for, because if I can find somebody that has passion for the game, I'm never going to have to worry about them going to practice. I'm never going to have to worry about them not wanting to go to workouts or something like that. They're going to want it as much as I do and keep coming to me saying, what do I need to do? What more can I do?
Well, Coach, that was great information regarding what you're looking for. One of the things, when you talk about passion or wanting, somebody who loves the game, we see a lot now in junior golf, tournament schedules being skewed towards keeping their rankings up, which then really means that they're playing less golf, right? They're trying to. How do you view that? Because that's one of the issues in the game right now, where these players, to your point, you're trying to find a kid who loves the game, who wants to play as often as they possibly can because they love the game, and the results will take care of themselves. How do you feel about, that schedule hopping, if you will, or ranking hopping? How does that present to you?
That's a great question, and it's a little bit frustrating for me as a coach in reference to I've got a current player. She's a freshman, Macy Pate. She loves to play the game. She's played in every junior event. She doesn't care if it's something down the road and it's something local. And so she didn't play the rankings game. Phenomenal player, freshman. I think she's 37th right now as a freshman, but she's not getting invitations into some of these, really nice events because she opted to do that instead of getting the one that were the high points wagger.
Wow. That's too bad.
And that's a shame, and so we try to do a balance. If you want to be in this high event, these are the tournaments you're going to need to play in. You're definitely going to need to do that. And hopefully the hard part is if she goes and plays in this smaller event and happens not to do well and she gets hurt that way, that's unfortunate. So it's a balancing act. I hate it in particular for this young lady, but it is a balancing act that you have to do if you want to get into those events. And they need some type of criteria to invite them, so I get it. But it does make it tough for those ones that just want to play as much as they can, play 30 events or something like that because they love the game, but they might not be able to get those wagger points if they need to get those invites. It's a tough one.
Coach Les,
yeah.
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I was going to say that is a really tough one because you see obviously the U.S. is so big, right? And there's so many opportunities for golfers to go play golf. But again, there's also restraints on financial restraints, maybe, logistic restraints. And so you see, and it seems like we missed so many great golfers that didn't play college golf or maybe didn't have that chance because of that reason, right? It's like, oh, well, we see the young girls stop playing at 15, 16 because maybe to your point, they are good players. They're not getting invitations to go play in some high level events. And now all of a sudden not getting, kind of looks from colleges. And now they're discouraged and just give up the game. What are some of the things that we can do about that?
So great point. I'm going to use Jennifer Kupcho as an example. I mean, Jennifer Kupcho, first Augusta National Women's Amateur Champion, right? So she, Diane Daly recruited her, who was the before me, my predecessor. And she stayed local. She stayed in Colorado. She stayed local. She really wasn't that well known. Played a USGA girls event. Coach Daly saw her, bam. She ends up at Wake Forest University. Ends up being a major winner. And so my suggestion would be if you can at least play some of those USGA events where the coaches are going to be. There's going to be a ton of coaches at the juniors. There's going to be a ton of coaches at the PGA Junior. These are events that you can stay local and get enough qualifying to get to those events. At least you're seen once or twice. That's going to allow you to get seen. I mean, a coach has got a good enough eye. If they know that you're a good ball striker, you just might not have the competition reps. You're going to get them when you're going to get here. You're going to get a good look at.
That's really great advice. I wanted to ask you about you'd mentioned recruiting budgets and even take Wake Forest, which is obviously the top of the food chain right now. Would you recommend to the juniors that, let's just say they're in California, but Wake Forest, because of your success, because of watching this interview, the families have fallen in love with you, Coach. How about the idea of scheduling a golf tournament in your neck of the woods? So you go play a Peggy Kirkbell, you go play a Nota Begay, you go play an AJGA in North Carolina, where then that email comes across your desk that says, "Hi, Coach. I've written you a couple times. Here are my scores again. I'm from Los Angeles, but I'm going to be at X, 25 miles from Wake Forest." Is that something that might push you to actually give them a little bit more of a look than you previously would have?
I definitely think it's a great idea. The only downfall to that is if the coach is somewhere else. Right. So a lot of those coaches, especially at mid-majors, they may not have an assistant, or they might be a part-time assistant, and they're not going to be able to get that on the road. So if you have that coach is located somewhere else that week, or B, we're competing. Make sure you look at the schedule.
Sure,
There are
sure.
a lot of times that tournaments are scheduled when we are also competing. So there's no way that there's anybody from Wake Forest going to be able to get there, or whatever school that it might be that you're looking at. Again, do your research. Are they in competition? If that coach can reach out to you, then they can say yes or no, I'm not going to be there. But what that does do, it gives you an opportunity to go on campus and look at it. And that's what I would say go do. Because just as much as I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, and you're looking at the school. So if you are in that town, take the time to go over there, do your own campus tour, see if you love it. If you don't, check it on your list or off of your list. But there are some things that might be holding back that coach from even getting there if it's local.
That's
yeah.
a really great advice.
Yeah, super. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing, Coach, and we will let you go, is just this full recruiting process. A golf roster is traditionally much smaller than some of the other sports. You say there is a spot for everyone, and we believe that as well. We preach that as well. How important is being realistic? And I'll just use at our national championship every year, we have 150 of the very best girls from around the world, from age 10 to 18, playing in their brackets. And every kid, I'll just use it, I'm sure you've seen it before, they all say they want to go to Stanford, or they all want to go to Wake Forest. I mean, there obviously in each recruiting class, it's forget the entire roster. Each recruiting class might only have 1 or 2 spots depending on the school. What advice would you give to parents and players about being realistic and finding a school that is actually golf-wise, for to get everything else, just golf-wise, the right fit?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question. I think the player needs to be honest on what they want. If they want a place that they're guaranteed to play, they need to say, can I play there? I think there's multiple ways to look at it. First, if you're a really high-end player, or a player that's going to be recruited by a lot of schools, you need to say, do I want total academics? If so, look at a total academic school. Do you want half academics, really important, and then a really good golf program? Then look at those schools that match you there. Or do you want something that's very less academic, and that it will be a little bit easier in that regard, and that's just totally golf? Where do you fit in that model? I think that's an important piece to look at. And then, well, I sort of lost my train of thought here with that, but I think that's an important piece to look at. And then I think, again, look at where you want to go. I've been fortunate, and there are a lot of schools that, because of Title IX, they may have to have 12 players. You might be able to go to a school that they need that umbrella, but know that if you're that 10th, 11th player, you might not play. Are you okay with that? Do you just want to be a part of that program because you love to wear that, whatever color that might be, green, red, whatever, and that's what you want? But if you want to play, you need to find a place that you can play. So really understanding. I offered a young lady a walk-on spot here, and she loved Wake Forest. I couldn't promise her that she was going to be part of my lineup with the scores that she was having right now. She came back to me and she goes, I love the possible opportunity, but Coach, I want to play somewhere definitely. And she went somewhere else. So, I mean, you need to be honest. I've had the opposite. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play, but I want to come and be a part of it. And a lot of times that person ends up being part of my lineup. When I was at Virginia, I had 2 walk-ons that ended up being on 2 of my Final Four teams. So it definitely happens. But you really need to have an honest conversation with yourself. Where do I see myself? Where do I want to be? And what am I looking for a balance of academics and athletics?
And finally, Coach, I do want to touch on burnout, just because as Roger, myself, and you included, are so entrenched in the game, you can see that it might be the game's biggest problem at the junior level, whether it's the amount of pressure, the amount of events, the amount of practice time, whatever it is, driven by the parents, unfortunately. But I've had conversations with kids that says the sight of their golf clubs makes them want to vomit. Like it just becomes so much that they're completely burned out and need to check out from the game. What advice do you have as far as you want your kid to be great? Listen, no matter whether it's academically, sports, whatever walk of life your child chooses direction, you want them to do the best they can at it. But there also, as we've seen in golf especially, there is crossing that line. Do you have any advice on burnout, and have you seen similar situations?
Yes, I mean, goodness, I could talk a lot about this particular piece. I think that I would challenge the parents not to put the pressure of you've got to perform well this week because yada 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 coach is going to be there, and oh my goodness, you hit a bad shot in front of her. Oh my gosh, do you know what I mean? Please don't do that, because golf is going to be difficult. When you first start, it's going to have its own challenges. You're going to try to not whiff the ball, right, for the first 20 shots then when you are now a scratch handicapper, you're just trying to minimize maybe 3-putt avoidance or whatever it might be. You're going to have challenges throughout your entire game. You've got to enjoy that process and not look at it as a failure, but failure's feedback. And each time you're getting better and better and better and better and better. So, I mean, burnout to me is when somebody is trying to be somewhere and they're putting the pressure on being there instead of being present at that moment, getting better in that moment, enjoying the process of getting it better in that moment, and letting the rest happen. So if I have any advice for a parent, keep preaching, enjoy the process. Keep enjoying getting better. Failure's feedback. Failure's not because you missed a shot in front of a coach. No way. Failure's feedback. And that way the burnout just becomes a cliche word that people use when they just don't love the game, instead of it being something that we can use as a process oriented to get you where you want to be with your goals.
Awesome. That was really great, Coach. Again, we thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on all your success. National Coach of the Year, National Champion, and I know your spring season is you can see it now. It won't be long before you guys are back out there trying to repeat and go back to back. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it. Sorry for all the breaks. Hopefully you got some popcorn. So anyway.
We got some good ones. Thanks, Coach. Good luck this year. All right. Wow.
Yeah, that was, what I expected, Roger. I mean, you're talking about bringing in the absolute top of the food chain there. What she's done, and let's just take a second and look at her resume. I mean, you don't think a coach matters. Whatever level she goes to, she wins.
Yeah,
that's not coincidence that she just happens to win.
Yeah, it's not an accident.
Yeah. So pretty incredible what she's been able to do, and her attitude is obviously infectious. It's why her teams are so successful, but also why she can pretty much have anyone she wants to play for, because it's easy to fall in love with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd go play for her. I mean, look at that, the passion, the enthusiasm. Could you imagine as a father having your daughter go, or a mother going, and this figure that's been so successful, but so humble in so many ways. And you can just tell that she cares so much just through, her communication. So really cool. Great to see, a coach that way.
Let's just take a minute. There is a major announcement coming from the Junior Golf Hub as soon as next week. A lot of new, exciting things that we will be unveiling on this podcast. But just because Coach talks so much about scheduling, it is that time of the year where you, the parent, should start to look and map out a schedule for your child, boy or girl. Best way to do that, we know it is the Junior Golf Hub. Just let's give our parents a refresher here in 2024. I know a lot's going to be coming and changing with the Hub. It's super exciting, but in this immediate moment, if they want to do their schedule while they're watching this podcast or right after, Roger, what's the best way?
Yep. Go to juniorgolfhub.com, click on, you find tournaments. Right now on the front page, you'll see, just click in your zip code. and it'll reference tournaments for you. Right now, we have over 3,200 events in there, which is more than anyone else out there in the world when it comes to tournaments that you want to find and search and play. So put it into your profile and send that link off to these coaches and let them know that you're playing golf.
Awesome. And again, on Tuesday, if you're looking for an exact date, it is January 23rd. A major announcement will be coming for the game of junior golf. So we will, no matter where you look on the 23rd, you'll hear the news, but we want you to be aware of that. January 23rd, stay tuned. The junior golf is about to get better. So on behalf of Roger Nick, the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, our producer, director, Michael Nick, I'm Ryan Burr saying until January 23rd, have a great day, everybody.